Straight from the source tonight, in his first full day back on the job, President Trump defended pardoning virtually every January 6th rioter, said he was open to Elon Musk buying TikTok, and a whole lot more. Senator Bernie Sanders is here and will join me live in moments with his thoughts. Also, one of the officers who was violently attacked that day is here. He also happens to be an officer who just protected Trump and his supporters at his inauguration 24 hours ago. Plus, I have new reporting this evening on Trump's termination of Secret Service protection for his own former national security advisor, John Bolton. Bolton, the target of an Iranian assassination plot. I'm Kaitlan Collins, and this is The Source. Good evening from Washington, where President Trump is just finishing up his first full day in office. I should note, tonight also marks a new era for this show, given I'll also be covering the White House as CNN's chief White House correspondent, in addition to anchoring The Source. That means that every night here at 9 p.m., I'll have new reporting on what's happening behind closed doors. The goal, of course, is to bring you the inner details on the workings of the Trump administration that you won't get anywhere else. Judging by the last 24 hours, it promises to be a very busy 4 years. And that's where we start this evening, because Donald Trump, perhaps faster and further than anyone before him, is wasting no time in flexing the enormous powers of the presidency, already pushing the limits to see just how far he can go to bulldoze anything or anyone in the way of his agenda. If Trump round one began with shock and awe, round two appears to be retribution and ruthless efficiency. In the last 24 hours, we have seen an avalanche of executive orders and actions on immigration, the economy, and controlling the levers of justice in America.
You would agree that it's never acceptable to assault a police officer?
Sure. These people have already served a long period of time. These were people that actually love our country, so we thought a pardon would be appropriate.
The leaders of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers were freed following their pardons yesterday. Is there now a place for them in the political conversation?
Well, we have to see.
Are you open to Elon buying TikTok?
I would be if he wanted to buy it.
Why did they remove John Bolton's security clearance, sir?
We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we? He's a stupid guy. But no, you can't have that for life.
As you heard there's already so much happening so fast, it can almost trigger a sensory overload. I get it. It was like trying to drink out of a fire hose the first 4 years. But I think it's important to be clear that what you're seeing play out is not just chaos. From our reporting, what we are witnessing is a full court press, an all-encompassing strategy by the president and his inner circle that has been meticulously planned for months, and now they are trying to put it in place. My lead source tonight is the independent senator from Vermont, Senator Bernie Sanders. And it's great to have you here, Senator Sanders. You were there at the inauguration speech yesterday. Out of the first 24 hours of the Trump presidency, has anything surprised you?
No. I think in terms of the speech, I suppose if you're a Trump supporter, you thought it was good. If you're a Trump opponent, as I am, you did not think it was good. But I think the main point, and kind of you inferred to that a second ago, we're going to see a whole lot of stuff. Every single day, you're going to see all kinds of stuff. But it is terribly important, in my view, for the American people to stay focused on the most important issues facing our country. All right. For example, very few people deny that our healthcare system is broken, it is dysfunctional, and it is outrageously expensive. Did the president, in his inaugural speech, say one word about the healthcare crisis? In America today, we have a major housing crisis. Not just 800,000 people who are homeless, millions of people paying 50, 60% limited income in housing, on housing. Did the president say one word about the housing crisis? We have massive income and wealth inequality. The gap between the very rich and everybody else never been wider. But sitting behind the president, as you know, were the three wealthiest people in America, worth together over $1 trillion. Did the president say one word about income and wealth inequality? Obviously not. Those are his supporters.
What was it like for you to see those people, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all sitting behind Trump yesterday, and not just behind him, but sitting next to his cabinet?
Well, you know, Kaitlan, as you may know, I have been talking about my fears as to how the United States is moving rapidly toward an oligarchic form of society. And anybody who was in the room or on TV and saw the President of the United States surrounded by the three wealthiest people in this country, one of whom made hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign contributions to him, at the same time when we have more concentration of ownership than we have ever had. The conclusion I hope that most people reach is that we are moving toward an oligarchy. We've got to fight back. We've got to protect our democracy. We need an economy that works for all, not just the people on top.
What would you say to Trump supporters or people who saw Elon Musk and them sitting there and thought, that's cool, these are people who have done a lot for the United States or an innovation, and said, actually, it's not such a bad thing that people should be criticizing? What would you say to that?
We will see how it plays out. But I think, Trump campaigned for president saying, I'm going to be a candidate of the working class of this country, right? Well, we will see if he addresses the healthcare crisis. We will see if he, in fact, is prepared to take on big pharma and lower the cost of prescription drugs. And certainly on issues like raising the minimum wage to a living wage, he's not going to be anywhere near where we have to be. In terms of housing, he's not going to do what has to be done. And the one thing he did say in terms of major issues facing our country is, in a sense, he talked about climate change. He said, drill, baby, drill. So at a time when we have had the 10 warmest years on record, last 10 years, when we have seen natural disasters in Los Angeles right now all over the world, what he says, hey, I'm going to make a horrific situation even worse, drilling for more oil, more carbon emissions. So bottom line here is, I think as Americans, we've got to appreciate what's going on in the country. We're moving toward oligarchy. 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Millions work for starvation wages. We need a government that works for all, not just for Elon Musk. We will see what happens.
Well, Elon Musk, he was not just there at the inauguration and obviously is playing a pretty big role in this administration. I saw him going into the West Wing yesterday. He's getting office space on the White House grounds. You voted against that law forcing TikTok to sell from its parent company, ByteDance. You didn't believe it was the right way to handle that. But when Trump says he would be okay if Elon Musk tried to buy TikTok.
Well, this is what oligarchy is about. You have Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Mr. Musk already owns Twitter. You have other billionaires owning the major media outlets in this country. CNN, other companies. If you look at who owns them, you're looking at large Wall Street firms. So you already have a major, serious problem in terms of ownership of the media. If Musk ends up owning TikTok, it'll only make a bad situation much worse.
What did you, and maybe you didn't notice this, we have a picture of it, but there was at one point where Shou Chew, the CEO of TikTok, who has ingratiated himself with Trump's circle, was seated next to Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's pick to be the director of national intelligence, who might get confirmed by the body you're in. We'll see. What do you, just to see them sitting together at an event like this, does that bother you?
No, I don't know how they make their seating arrangements. I don't think that's all that important. What is important is that you have a small number of very wealthy people who own the media, who in recent months have kind of caved in to Trump. You're having Trump suing various media outlets, and it's going to result, I think, in a fear of the media standing up to Trump, worrying about being sued, worried about other problems. But bottom line is that the First Amendment is enormously important. We need media who are fearless in speaking out on the issues of the day, and you're not going to have that when you have a small number of very wealthy people controlling what we see here and read. On
Tulsi Gabbard, have you met with her as she's vying to get Senate confirmation?
Not yet.
Do you know how you plan to vote on her?
Nope. I look forward to sitting down and chatting with her.
But you could potentially see yourself voting for Tulsi Gabbard.
I look forward to sitting down and chatting with her.
I just was asking because you defended her before. She introduced you actually when you were nominated at the convention. You have defended her when some of your colleagues were or not your colleagues, but some Democrats were calling her a Russian asset in years prior. Do you think founded?
Look, I think when she ended up supporting me back in 2016, she got a lot of heat for that. I think her visit to Syria to meet with Assad, Donald Trump did the right thing. Every once in a while he does. He met with the leader of North Korea. The idea that you should not sit down with your adversaries, whether it's Iran, whether it's China, whether it's North Korea, whether it's Syria, whatever it may be. I don't think that that's a valid criticism.
The Washington Post had a report tonight on that even her staff then had questions, though, about what it was that they talked about for so long. It was a meeting that went for an extended period of time. Would you ask her about that when you do meet with her about this job?
We'll see. I mean, yeah, I would like to know what her views are on various issues, sure.
Okay, so keep us updated on that. But I do want to ask you about what we saw in the first 24 hours. You talked about focusing on what's important and what has impact. The January 6 pardons do have impact. We're going to talk to an officer who was beaten that day. When you see that he pardons virtually everybody who is convicted or has a case, what does that say about the rule of law to you?
Well, you're right. It says a lot. It especially says a lot given the fact that Trump claims to be a great supporter of the police in America, great believer in law and order. He loves the cops. Well, 140 police officers were injured, a few died, because they defended members of Congress and they defended democracy in America against an insurrection. These guys are heroes. And to tell the entire world they were going to pardon people who attacked and hurt police officers is telling, I think, the world that violence is okay, and it's okay to attack police officers when you have a mind to do so. I think that is a horrible message, and I strongly disagree with his pardoning of those insurrectionists.
One thing that he's been using tonight to defend it were President Biden's preemptive pardons. And I know you had come out and said he should seriously consider them for the January 6th committee. He not only pardoned the committee and the officers who testified before them, he also pardoned his brothers and his sister and their spouses.
Caitlin, in my view, you can argue whether Biden did the right thing or the wrong thing.
And what do you think?
Well, what I think is that he was worried that, given all of Trump's rhetoric, that Trump was going to go after his family and close associates. All right? That's the concern. But don't equate the two. I don't know that anybody in Trump's family tried to overthrow the United States government and attack police officers. What Trump did is say to the world, pardon me?
Anyone
in the Biden family, I'm sorry. What Trump is saying to the world is that it is okay for you to attack police officers when you have a mind to do that. And I think that is an outrageous message to send to the world.
And you think you can't equate them because they're pointing to Biden pardoning the
That's what they're
activists
saying. I
who
do. I
killed
saw that.
two FBI
Look,
agents.
that's a good excuse, but nothing. You could argue, did Biden do the right thing? Did he do the wrong thing? Fine. It has nothing to do with what Trump did today.
On just what Trump has done overall, one thing he did was pull the United States he's seeking to pull the United States out of the World Health Organization.
Great.
We all lived through a pandemic a few years ago. Do you think that could backfire?
Well, if you believe in health, yeah. If you believe that it's important for the world to come together to address future pandemics, yeah. If you think it's important for scientists around the world to cooperate in figuring out how we create a more healthy planet, and if you want to protect the poorest people in the world, yeah, I think it's a major mistake. Look, I think it's outrageous. And I think, especially not only with pandemics, but with climate change, we've got to bring the world together to fight our common enemies. I was chairman of the health committee. We had all the experts in front of us. When you ask them, do you think another pandemic is going to come? Their answer is, yeah. Are we prepared? No, we're not. So the idea that you separate yourself from the rest of the world makes zero sense to me.
And you had a lot of conversations about that as the chairman of that committee. On just the next 4 years overall, is there anywhere you think you could work with the Trump administration? Is it DOJ? Is it, some of these cabinet officials like Tulsi Gabbard or RFK?
Example, we will see whether Trump is going to keep any of the campaign promises he made to working people. You will recall, he said he wants to cap interest rates on credit cards at 10%. You know what? At a time when desperate people pay 20, 30% interest rates, I think that's a good idea. Musk said there's a lot of waste in the Defense Department. Musk is right. All right. Trump has talked about cutting down on the cost of prescription drugs. We got to do that. If he's prepared to stand up for working families, I am prepared to work with him.
Okay, we'll see what that looks like. Senator Bernie Sanders, as always, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Great to have you on.